Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the 3 Gun Show, episode 113. I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guest this week is tactical and competition marketing guy at Vortex Optics, Reuben Aleckson, and digital marketing consultant and member of the HK shooting team, Sean Burrows. We talk about a couple very popular topics in our niche, sponsorship and social media marketing. But before we get into the interview, I want to thank you for downloading and listening to the show. The 3 Gun Show is a weekly podcast where each week I bring you an interview featuring one of the many awesome personalities in 3 Gun, and we talk about training, gear, match strategy, funny stories, and just generally have a great time. If you like the show, there are multiple ways of supporting the podcast, including using our affiliate links when you shop at Brownells, Amazon, Cabela's, and Optics Planet. Just go to 3gunshow.com/support for the links. This is currently the way the show creates revenue. And each time you use these affiliate links, I earn a 3 to 5% commission on what you buy at no additional cost to you. And it helps pay for everything involved in bringing you content like this, from costs of hosting to travel expenses. And if you use these links, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Now, I get asked all the time to talk about sponsorships on the show, and in this episode, I bring on a couple of experts in the form of a sponsorship coordinator and shooter at Vortex Optics, as well as a digital marketer who also happens to be on the HK shooting team. Links to everything that we discuss can be found at 3gunshow.com/episode 113, including a couple of videos that Reuben and I did where I'm checking out some of the new Vortex products at SHOT Show. And be sure to listen to the end of this podcast because I have a special bonus content piece for you that I'm sure you're going to love. So enjoy this one with Reuben Aleckson and Sean Burrows. All right, welcome back to the SHOT Show, 2017 edition of the 3 Gun Show. And we are sitting right outside the Vortex booth. And joining me are a couple special guests, Sean Burrows of the HK shooting team. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you, man. And also with us today is Reuben Aleckson, the tactical and competition marketing guy at Vortex Optics. Reuben, welcome, man.
How's it going?
It's going great. Good. So, guys, I'm pumped to talk to you because we have like a pretty cool topic that we've been kicking around in the weeks leading up to SHOT Show here, and we're finally getting to chat about it. But first, Reuben, I got to tell everybody how you and I met. So, hard as hell. I get to hard as hell, and I pick out my rangefinder because I'm trying to, obviously range targets as we're walking the stages and stuff like that. My rangefinder battery is dead, doesn't work. And then also happens to be I got to go over the zero range. Ask Ken Nelson, how far are those targets? He's like, 50-ish? It's like, Ken, 50-ish, come on. So I walk over and I find the first guy that I can that looked like a nice dude. And I'm like, excuse me, sir, do you happen to have a rangefinder? And he's like, yes, I do. Here, use this one. Hands me like a brand new Vortex. Still smells like new plastic and everything. Yep. Go use it, hand it back to him. And then later on, he says, hey, are you Dave from the 3 Gun Show? It turns out it's Reuben from Vortex. Could not be a better person to ask for an optic from.
It was meant to happen.
It was meant to be. And then I got to see one of the new scopes you guys have, the Viper PST 1-6.
Yep.
Which is a pretty impressive scope, and we're going to go take a look at that after we do the podcast here as well.
Awesome.
Happy to have you because you have a unique perspective on the shooting sports, both as a shooter and as someone who works for a very large company who is active in the shooting sports. So Happy to have you here, Reuben.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Sean, a little story about how we met. I got a message from you like on Instagram said, hey, I see something wrong with your website that's holding you back in Google SEO. Do you want to talk about it? And I was like, I don't know what you mean, but yes, I do. And that's how we met and became friends.
Yeah, I remember you called me just as I was going to the gym, and it was a cold January day, and I stood outside my shorts, and I gave you as much SEO advice as I possibly could before I had to go inside and not freeze to death.
I was wondering why your voice was shaking. I thought you were an old dude or something.
He's an old soul. I'm very immature, though, so it's a conundrum.
Well, guys, the reason, Sean, we have you here is for just what we talked about is you are active in the internet marketing world You have a lot of experience in that arena as well. And our topic today is talking about social media, sponsored shooters, and the relationship that they have with their sponsors. And I've seen some stuff lately, guys, as far as and maybe it's just like been around for a while and I've been ignoring it, but because we knew that we were going to talk about this, I've been hypersensitive to a lot of things that have happened lately, and got some questions here. So we might hurt some feelings, unfortunately, crush some dreams, but we're also going to make for, a better shooting community out of it as well.
I think it'll do awesome things for the sport to talk about it in the open.
Good, yeah, absolutely, and not having like the what should I do, but it's the roadmap, I think will be good for people going forward as well.
If telling someone they hit a target when they actually missed it hurts their feelings, then I don't know if it's doing anyone any good.
You don't know if 3 guns right game for them?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so guys, let's take her back a little bit here. Let's have the audience get to know you. Reuben, how did you get involved with Vortex Optics and with shooting? And what's kind of your background as far as it relates to like the shooting sports?
So I started out working for a retailer in central Minnesota, and essentially when I got connected with Vortex was we sold a ton of Vortex, and they were up and coming at the time. Like a lot of people didn't know about them. I ended up getting one of their scopes on a promotion deal that that if you work for a retailer you can get a good price on stuff, and I ended up grabbing a 1-4 Viper PST and going out, and I had never shot a 3-gun match. I shot some USPSA and went out with some buddies and shot a 3-gun match. And I started talking with the guys at Vortex a little more about it, and we sold a ton of Vortex stuff at our shop there. And like I just started pushing it really hard. And one of the guys at Vortex, a good friend of mine now, who I work with every day, he was like, "Hey, if you're ever coming through through Madison or going to Chicago or anything like that, stop by." And I was like, "Oh wow, you're like right there." And so I did, and it was awesome, and kind of one thing led to another, and through the shooting sports I was able to promote Vortex a little bit, and kind of just saw myself as more of a field field rep than as a sponsorship. Like I was more concerned about what I could do to help them grow the name in the sport, and they by no means were reliant on me. I didn't do great things for them, but they helped me out, and one thing led to another. A couple years later, we were at a point in life where we were in the neighborhood of Vortex, and I was like, "Hey, I want to see him again," and ended up getting a job there, and it's been awesome ever since. And I've continued to stay in the 3-gun world, shooting matches, going to matches. I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to go to events for Vortex, and
right.
It's been phenomenal.
That's cool. That sounds like a pretty neat little way to get involved with the company, and then now you work there. What a cool story. Well, Sean, how did you get involved in the shooting sports?
I went to a fundraiser for the Utah State Attorney General in 2006 up at the I don't know what it's called, the Browning Ranch, like Browning the company.
John Moses Browning,
named after John Moses Browning from Utah. Invented things like the 1911 Browning high power and the
most automatic actions.
Yeah, most automatic actions, little things like that. And it was a shooting competition, but it was a fundraiser. Expensive, a couple $1,000s per head dinner. And I have a well-to-do family member that had purchased several plates, and if you scored well, you won a Browning shotgun. And it was actually a multi-gun event, and I won a Browning shotgun. Now, it wasn't 3-gun. It was all right. The first stage is like it was a bullseye 22 pistol sort of event. And then the second stage was kind of a bullseye sort of rifle event, and then the third stage was a sporting clays of some sort. Mm-hmm. So, but for all intents and purposes, it involved 3 guns. So, I placed in the top 5 out of 50 snooty, well-to-do people that were contributing to the Attorney General's campaign, and I won a Browning shotgun. Still have it.
Cool.
I have no idea what kind it is because I've never shot it. It just sits in my safe. I'm not really a duck hunter. So, and so I actually did pull it out when I was considering getting into 3-gun to look at, like, is this even going to work? And it wasn't. So it's a semi-auto of some sort. But that kind of sent me down the path. And then over the years, I'd go to little IDPA indoor pistol matches. And then about 3 years ago, I went to my first USPSA match. And then I was kind of hooked on the practical shooting sports. And it just got more and more serious after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say over the last 18 months, it's been it went from, I don't know how else to compare it. I went from being a casual social drinker to a full-on face down in the gutter lush, waking up not knowing where I was and where did all of my money go. Wow, I'm still married? This is cool. and
that is like the threshold, though. Like, you push it till the point of divorce. That's what I'm getting from you.
And then back off just a little bit.
And then back off just a little bit.
And as we speak, I've got an amazing wife here at SHOT Show that's like taking Instagram boomerangs.
Yeah,
and
she's like 12 feet from us, so you can't talk too much trash.
No, she's right here with me. And I took her to an IDPA match about 6 months ago. And she's like, Safariland makes red belts. I want one of those. And got her set up with a VP9. And I'll go to bed, and then I'll wake up like at 1 in the morning and hear click, clack, clack, mags falling on the floor, and she's working on reloads and dry firing. And so now, I mean, I don't know what the competitive shooting sports equivalent of having 2 alcoholic parents is, but I mean, we've got 4 kids. Our kids are still clothed.
I thought you had 3 kids.
Yeah, we did until we had a 4th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's the youngest? What's the youngest one's name?
Reuben, actually.
Great name.
It's going to be a good lad.
Yeah, he is a good lad. Same age as Reuben's little girl, actually.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. And you guys got to do the Verbo Buddy thing, the VR.
Yeah, we're Verbo Bros.
Verbros at Hard as Hell. So it all comes back to one sweet match in St. George, which is why we're all here. So that's
Absolutely.
cool. So, guys, I don't know how to like lead into this topic, but other than like I see a lot of people doing stuff wrong, and we all have like unique perspectives on things because I observe a lot in the world of 3-gun. I have no sponsors, so I don't have like a dog in the fight or anything, and but I talk to hundreds of people that do in all levels of the game, from people that are like brand new and have like 13 sponsors on their shirt, to guys that have been shooting it for years and years and years and have T-shirts. So it's a very unique thing and a very dynamic thing to be a sponsored shooter. And also there's like a big aspect of like how we portray ourselves to the public and to our sponsors and to other people in the shooting sports on social media. So those are 2 kind of separate topics I want to start talking about, and then somewhere along the line they're going to intertwine there. But Reuben, let's start with you, man. Like, Vortex runs a shooting team with a ton of shooters on it, and there's guys all at the top level, and there's mid-level shooters, and then there seems to be like a bunch of new level shooters as well. You guys love the competition shooting sports, from what I can tell. You sponsor a ton of great matches and a ton of great shooters. What is it that Vortex from sponsoring all these shooters and all these matches?
That's a super great question. I think one of the reasons why that's a really hard question to answer is because I'm in Wisconsin, and I do get fortunate enough to go out to Utah once a year, twice a year, go out to Nebraska or hit West Virginia or go to matches down south. And so I generally meet most of the people that represent us a couple times a year. I mean, honestly, we're based up in Wisconsin, and I know a lot of the Minnesota shooters just because that's where I'm from. And so I'll go up and shoot matches with those guys. But that covers such a small portion of the people that represent us. And so I think what we get out of it is it's totally dependent upon the person that it is, and what their really what their focus is in shooting. I kind of look at it sometimes like if I wanted to start golfing, the first call I would make wouldn't be to the company that makes the clubs and say,
Titleist.
hey, I'm looking to get into golf. What can you do for me?
Mm-hmm.
It would be to call a golf course and set a tee time.
Yeah.
And go to Goodwill and buy some old clubs.
So that's an excellent parallel that you've drawn there, because I always compare 3-gun to golf. If I have to explain it to someone, I'm like,
yep.
We walk around with a squad, which is like your foursome. We go to different holes, which is the stage. We pay a match fee and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
That's an excellent parallel.
I mean, realistically, for most people that are shooting it, I don't know how many 3-gunners there are, in the country. 20,000, 25,000, 500, who knows? But I think that it is, for most people, it's truly like a luxury sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably shouldn't be your first priority if you're having a hard time, paying the bills, because it's an expensive sport. I mean, as we all know, whether it be getting into your equipment to start, whether it be ammo, match fees, travel to matches.
Yeah.
So we get a ton of different content out of different people across the country, and I think that when you look at our shooting team per se, I always tell people we don't have a formal shooting team. We have a lot of people that wear our jersey.
Oh, okay.
Or wear our logo on their jersey.
And they're all individuals.
Yep. And there's, I remember back years ago, the old Noveski shooting team. And it was like a group of people that went from match to match, and you could go to any major in the country and they were there. And I think a lot of people heard about Noveski from that, because they knew like when that team was going to be somewhere, because that team was posting up stuff on social media. They were on DVDs, they were playing videos at their booths at SHOT Show and NRA Show.
They had like demos of stuff on YouTube, different techniques and things like that.
And it was, I think that definitely was one of those teams that, for me, like there's a lot of allure to that, but then a lot of it also is like, if you have all of your eggs in one basket, one group of people, because really, I mean, representing a company at a match is great, but I think one of the biggest reasons why you're sponsoring people or helping them out with equipment is so that they can communicate with local people, the people on their level that they're shooting weekend matches with, or Tuesday night pistol league, talking to them about gear and selling gear. A lot of the people that we do work with are either current military or ex-military or law enforcement. There's tons of LEOs in the sport, and so I think we get exposure to different groups of people, different customer groups, based off of who it is that you're sponsoring.
Right. So do you then look at like your shooters, like your individual shooters, as brand representatives, people who are going to go out and sell product?
I think that it's kind of a case-by-case basis. I generally like to work with people that have that sales mentality.
Right.
That they're out there. If somebody approaches me and says, like, this is what I do, this is what I've won, this is what, and it's about me, like Vortex as a company, like our core it's about you. Like, it's about the customer. So whenever, like, when we'll go and look at the new PST, I'll tell you about how input from customers made that scope. It's about them. And so I generally I can just get it when I talk to somebody and they're like, well, here's, what I'd be willing to do. And here's how I'm excited about the product. I already own Vortex, and I'm going to use it regardless of, whether you sponsor me or not. But here's the people that I've converted over. Here's the people that I chat with, the people I shoot with regularly. A lot of them will lay it out there how they're willing to, really drive and promote Vortex. And as long as it's within like the spirit of the company and like how it relates to our core values as a company of being about the customer, man, that makes my job so much easier, because it's like, number one, they're already excited about it. Number two, they're good with people and they know what the directive is. Like if they can take, like, one really big thing for me is when I talk to somebody about either sponsorship or ambassadorship, whatever you want to call it, and they tell me about what they can do and how they're willing to promote in their market or in their local area. It's an interesting question sometimes because I'll say, okay, cool. Well, I'd really like you to use this scope. Ultimately, I'm here to help them, but is there a chance you could shoot a red dot for a couple matches? Or is there a chance you can help me promote this binocular? Because that's a whole other show, gear besides just the scope that goes on your gun.
Yeah.
But how willing would you be to switch divisions in this environment? And I've never really truly asked somebody to do that, but like a lot of times you get,
It's a feeler.
cool, yeah, let's get sponsored, let's get set up. How many razors can I get? It's like, well, I can help you out, but I also want to sell the other, the entry level product. There's a couple of really cool people that I've worked with in the past that have straight up come to me and been like, hey, I want to work with you, I want to represent you, and I'm going to shoot a Strike Eagle. It's like, perfect. Because that's an entry level scope. If they're going to a match to try and create new customers and people who have never shot before,
Yeah.
it's like their first scope isn't probably going to be a $1,400 scope. It's probably going to be a $300 or a $400 scope. And as they grow in their sport and in their abilities, they're going to buy more expensive equipment. And it's just like, it's awesome when somebody's like, hey, what do you need help selling? Like, what's the company pushing right now? Like, what products do you guys want to get in the hands of people? That's a no-brainer. That person gets it.
Yeah. Well, and it's you guys have such like a wide product range that Jerry Mitchell designed the reticle on the Razor, right? So do you need anyone else to sell that? I mean, do you need that? It's nice to have like the spice on top and everything, but when you've got like the one name, so I totally get you when you're talking about like a full product line. You want someone that represents each part of that and can give like real world experience in that optic.
Yeah, and Jerry's awesome. I mean, like, Jerry is one of those guys that I've watched on TV when I was a little kid, and now I get to shoot with him, and now I help, kind of manage that relationship between him and Vortex, and it's like every time he calls, I'm just like all excited and kind of like a little nerd,
He told me that same thing about you, by the way.
Oh, that's so nice.
No, Jerry did.
Oh, jeez. That's hilarious. I'm sure he did.
That's how you look at it, Sean.
But I guess like now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, sorry about that. So let me reset it for you. So from what you're saying, Reuben, it sounds like the shooter that's going to be shooting a lot of local matches and is going to be influencing people that maybe are coming into the game or don't quite have all their gear set up and everything. Because one thing that I've always let me finish that sentence, are more valuable to you. But one thing that I've always thought is I see, a dude from Team Vortex, a dude from Team Loophole, and three other dudes from Team Vortex, three other dudes from Team Loophole, all shooting on the same squad. And it's like, who are they selling scopes to? Yeah.
I mean, like, you really, that's a really good way to look at it, because I look at it and I have some shooters that they're like active with local law enforcement. Like they go, one guy's like, yeah, I train with local cops. I get the product in their hands. Like for me, that might sell 40 red dots to a department.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, that's really like, that's a brand ambassador. That's ultimately a salesperson. And there's some people that have that just drive, like, hey, so I'm looking to how we can expand Vortex's coverage of this market. People that will come to you with ideas like, hey, I had this great idea about a video that I can do at a match. And I always think it's interesting because there's some people that you never hear from. Like, they'll call, you'll talk to them, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. But there's that person that you never talk to again, and it's like, check in with them once in a while, and like, oh yeah, yep, I still got my scope, and but then there's people that, and they never ask for anything again, right? And then there's the person who calls you all the time. They're like, hey, I'd really like to get this because I'm gonna put it on this gun, and it's gonna be a backup gun, and I'm gonna let it, junior shooters use it when I go to matches, or I'm gonna have a backup gun and I'm gonna borrow it to people if theirs goes down. I always say just ask. Like, if you have ideas like that, I want to hear it, because rather than say like, hey, let's look at this match and there was this opportunity and they just were afraid to ask, man, like, you might have just missed that 40 red dot sale because you didn't want to ask.
Right.
Versus the guy who is open about it and communicates with you. Like, that's one of the biggest things, is communication.
So with communication, I know a lot of times, I worked in like the world's largest defense contractor. There's a lot of over communication.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do not need to be CC'd on everything. So what do you look at as Sean just got an idea here. He's like, I'm going to CC Dave on a bunch of stuff. Shut up. So, but what do you look for as like kind of an average? It probably depends on the shooter and the situation. But over like say a shooting season, how many check-ins do you kind of figure? Like once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month?
Sean's like every day, but that's all right. I like hearing it.
They're self-destructing messages, though.
Oh, Snapchat.
Man, Dave, like, some people are so active.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will be like every day, like, hey, here's what I'm doing, just to let you know I was with these people and they shot it, and we went to the store after they shot it and they each bought one, and they're just excited about it. And sometimes they can't answer the phone. Sometimes it's like,
right.
Hey, awesome. Hey, send them a text after I listen to the voicemail. Hey, thanks, I really appreciate it. You're doing awesome. And then that's, probably on the like high end.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind. I mean, that's my life. I still shoot all the time. I still shoot a good number of major matches every year, and I still shoot local stuff. And I'm running 3-gun matches at our local club and trying to get that started up. And so that's kind of my life. I mean, chatting, shooting with people I shoot with. And
I know, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm never going to complain to hear from people, especially like when they're excited about Vortex. Like, for me, that means we're on the right track, is when people are excited about it, because it's about them. It's not about us. Like,
right.
We want to make people feel like they're part of something, because whether you look at our warranty or the service, like, the company is about people. We make great products. There's no doubt about that, especially when guys like Jerry are running them. We make great products, but it's because of input from people and feedback that we get from people using them. And the feedback on the products is another big thing. You'll talk to somebody and be like, hey, how you like that? And they're like, oh, it's great, it's great, it's great. And then like a year later, they're like, oh, man, I wish you could have done this. And you're like, well.
Well, isn't that
Should have told me.
That's true about sponsorship? Like, it's all about people. It's not about the logo. Mm-mm. It's not about the product. It's not about the jersey. It's all about people.
Yes.
The people are the assets, and sometimes the logo and the product become the liability. And the second a person in the relationship becomes a liability, that's a problem. Sometimes it's the company. Oftentimes, though, it's the one that is more concerned about the title of I'm a sponsored shooter.
Sure.
Than what that means, what that
right.
represents. And so, I mean, I own a digital marketing agency. I represent a lot of clients, and my business partner comes from the background of traditional media. So we're kind of a fusion of old and new world marketing, and so we work with a lot of brand ambassadors that we introduce to our clients, and we're constantly looking for justifications for our clients, because we have to charge fees. The brand ambassadorships that we set up are fee-based. It's not just like, here's some free product.
Right.
So every single month when those invoices are going out, there has to be a measurable key performance indicator.
Okay. KPI, baby.
KPIs, marketing buzzwords, and that's really hard to do in certain instances. Sometimes you're looking at external rates of return rather than internal rates, and the external rates of return are damn near impossible to measure, because it's just like exposure.
Yeah.
I was talking to a company that was rolling their eyes at all these sponsored shooters want to be sponsored by our company, like it was a bad thing. And I'm thinking, your particular product is so in demand that everybody across the board in our sport wants your stuff and you hate it. And you look at that as a burden. And I'm thinking someone else is going to come along, or at least ought to, and wipe you off the map.
Reuben's pointing at Vortex.
I think that's one thing that we've done awesome is just we love the fact that people are excited about it.
Yeah. You know, this is going to sound like a bunch of butt sniffing, but I think one thing that Vortex has done is create like fanatics in like a short amount of time. Like I feel like I heard about Vortex.
It's Apple level.
It is. It almost is, yeah. I don't see a lot of lines for the new optics yet, but there could be in the future. But there definitely are fanatics, people that have no vested interest in singing the gospel and the praises, but absolutely do. If you talk to anyone who's had a problem with a Vortex optic, self-induced or something in the manufacturing process, they are your most extreme advocates because they talk about how the Vortex warranty has been so great to them and everything.
Because it's people-based. It's 100% people-based.
Yeah.
The warranty and service to me still, even working here and before I worked here and even now, is a crazy concept.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it,
yeah.
I don't really know any car companies that'll just replace your tires every 30,000 miles. You know, like, I guess there might be certain instances, but.
Well, right behind you over here, there's a picture of a set of binoculars that's been in a house fire. And I assume that it's there because you guys replaced those.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. Like my Duramax that I just bought had a transfer case go out. Did I get a free transfer case?
I would not assume so. No.
I did not.
I don't know if that was a loaded question or not. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Always
Fact.
check to make sure the question is loaded.
No, I did not. I did not get a free transfer case. You know, but you know that's the difference between like say the shooting sports and the shooting world versus everywhere else. You know, it's such a small community that we deal in that like sorry, I was wondering what you guys were staring at, but it's just a small community that we deal in that you have to maintain a sort of relationship, and it's an above and beyond relationship these days because word spread fast in a small community.
One of the things that's a lot of fun are, you know, the little like fall is here videos that we do, or recently we've been doing a lot of like Vortex Live stuff inside of, you know, using Facebook Live to get inside of Vortex and show people like, hey, this is the person you talked to when you called, you know, and had an issue with your spotting scope, and
cool.
Walking back and showing them parts of manufacturing, parts of engineering, introducing them to the people that they're on the phone with. And you can take any number of companies and think about that. Like, think about what companies do you know people from? Like, it doesn't matter if it's optics or bullets or outside of the gun world.
Right.
You're going to connect so much better and relate so much better to a company if you feel like you know them.
Right.
And that's one of the big reasons why we go to matches is because, number one, 3-gunners support us so much. I mean, like, you look at the number of 3-gunners using Vortex scopes, and I can tell you they're not all sponsored shooters. Most of them are going out and buying it on their own dime, and it's so cool to see. So that's why we go out, and that's why we go to matches, and we'll bring coolers full of water and Gatorade and pass it out on stages, or just having that presence there with people. Like one of the coolest things that we did was this. Like at Hard as Hell, we went and got a Verbo and rented a house, and it was the Vortex house, except for, I'll give a shout out, Jay Carrillo.
Of not Vortex.
He's not, no, but he's a close friend of mine, guy that shoots local matches with us too, and he's representing a great company now too. So, but nonetheless, we had the Vortex house, and it was. I wish the hot tub wouldn't have been so cold.
We could have warmed it up, Reuben.
There was leaves and junk, but Andy overpromised on that one. Said there's a hot tub and a waterfall, and there was like an old pool that was full of leaves.
And a bucket of water so you could dump it out like a waterfall. Wow, we took a turn here.
But that was one of those things where, for me, like as the sponsorship guy, that guys like Sean, guys like Andy, guys like Jerry, Rick Birdsall, these guys that they work with me as their contact. I want to make that more involved for them. I want them to, feel like I'm not just somebody that they call when they need something, but like I want those guys to be salesmen.
Yeah.
Like that's my crew, and doing stuff like going and getting a rental together and hanging out for talking about stages after the match and talking about what stage killed you and listening to how Andy shot so awesome. It was great.
He did shoot awesome.
Yeah, he told all of us about it.
Well, Sean, the one of the topics that you're really good at, and you've actually helped me a lot out with, is social media and how to engage with like your own audience, and to create like some buzz around it, and to get like a message in front of your audience. One of those messages that, as sponsored shooters or shooters in general, that we can get in front of people is the safe use of firearms. Another one is how awesome HK firearms are, or Vortex optics are, or
Correct.
or the Three Gun Show podcast, etc. So
All the above.
what exactly? So what do you see? Give me some things you see people doing right, and some things you see people doing wrong. And you don't need to necessarily call anyone out.
No,
but,
not
but let's do this in
individuals.
like the context of like positive improvement. So no one gets butt hurt or anything.
No. Engagement is number one. Absolute number one, engagement.
What do you mean by engagement? I'm a marketing guy, so I understand what you mean.
I'm going to use Instagram as the platform because Instagram is the simplest and the hottest platform out there. It's got the young to middle-aged gun demographic.
Mm-hmm.
People like my dad are on Facebook. Not even Jerry Mitchell's on Facebook. My dad and Jerry are the same age, but Facebook is kind of like having a Gmail address. Everyone should have one, but Instagram is where you ought to be if you want to get some real attention and some real traction, okay? Out of a request of a sponsor, I did start a Facebook page, but it just mirrors my Instagram account. Nothing special. Engagement is...
Back up just a sec. How do you feel about that mirroring?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, good, bad, indifferent.
It's there to let people know my Instagram account is there.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are on Facebook, and I don't know if I want to get on Instagram. They're looking at it as something that teenagers are on.
Right.
And I just got onto Facebook, like, hey, I'm catching up to 2009, and that's the way the gun world is, like, right, like. Okay,
yeah.
You know what? I guess 9mm might be a viable round. Something other than 45 might have knockdown power or whatever it is, right? Like, it's interesting because gun guys, women in the shooting world don't seem to have this problem. I'm talking about men, seem to get stuck on one idea and just carry it to the grave,
right.
Whatever it is, 45 ACP or Glock for life or 1911, whatever it is, right? And so, like, be flexible and engage. And by engage, I mean, one, like the people that comment on your stuff. Like the comments. Number two, reply to them. Hey, I mean, if they're keyboard commandos and they're criticizing on you, be nice. Reply to them.
Educate.
If they're being complimentary, be extremely grateful and reply. Like, and then reply. And that's just on your own stuff. Engagement on other people's stuff that are in the same conversation you're doing, topics like 3-gun,
mm-hmm.
and then 3-gun topics. Go onto other people's things. If you want to grow your following, guess what? No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. You know that Hallmark card or whatever? I think it's a Facebook cat meme.
That's like a Zig Ziglar thing too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a billion things. But the last thing I saw it in the form of was a Facebook cat meme. But really, no one's going to come to your page until they see how you go out and engage on other threads. So participate in groups if you're on Facebook, but go on to other accounts that are bigger than yours. Like, go onto the Vortex and comment on other people's stuff, tag them in it, reply to what other people are saying, participate on other hashtags. Go out and be a part of your community outside of your own account. And then here's number 2. So engagement. And then number 2, you need to have good content, right? Like, it's not just like, this is my gun.
Blurry pictures of an AR-15
A
carry
gun.
handle.
This is a gun. Right.
Doesn't even matter if it's your own gun.
Well, right. Yeah, preferably with your clothes on. This is for both genders. But, I mean, doing something with it in a safe fashion, too. You know, good content. Good, safe, consistent, regular content. Because once you start engaging and people like how you engage, the next thing they're going to do is go look at your profile. And if your profile has decent content, guess what? They're going to want to follow you. Mm-hmm. And that's how it happens. That's how you build a following. And then once you have a following, you need to give them reason to continue to follow you. And whatever that is, if it's a weekly post, if it's a couple times a week, daily, I post a couple of times a day. But, I mean, it's whatever you can handle. People have different levels of availability. I stare at this screen on my smartphone a lot more than most people, but it's also I understand that this is most people's first screen. It's not the computer anymore. It's not the TV.
Not the TV.
I mean, it's not even the windshield of their car. This is what people look like.
I've noticed that driving in Vegas.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's this, and this is how people are – this is the lens through which people are living their lives. And so if they're interested in gun stuff more so than the person they're sitting across the dinner table from, which is mostly the case in our world because guns, right?
Right.
Do it. I'm gesturing and pointing at my phone for those that are listening at home.
Podcast.
Right. I'm making an earnest face and pointing at my phone. Do it. It's just like dry fire. If you want to get better, you need to do it. And a lot of people hesitate, like, I don't know if I have good content. I don't know how to take a picture of. Like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like, people want to see real stuff.
Right.
There's a saying, one of my favorite social media gurus, it's a personal friend of mine, says, when you ponder, you squander. Don't go after perfection. Just do it. You know, log what you're doing with your dry fire. Like, hey, here's me sucking less today. You know, be honest and open about it because people love seeing that. Like, don't wait until you're like Keith Garcia to start posting because then it's too late.
Right.
But also, you know, just posting with your favorite logos isn't right either. You know, like the people that are trying to, and please don't buy fake followers. Everyone can see that
you have no engagement.
Probably have no engagement. Like if you have 100,000 followers and only 5 people are liking your posts, and you only have 100 posts in the history of your Instagram account, something's up.
Yep.
Sorry.
Well, so Sean, what kind of content? So you're sponsored by HK Shooting. What kind of content do you provide to your audience that maybe promotes HK in like in a classy way, rather than just like a picture of an HK wrapper? I don't know, guns. Their guns come in wrappers, cases, and with like love my HK.
Well, there is definitely a fair amount of gun porn,
Sure.
but I was doing that before. Like,
yeah.
Like well,
I knew you before, so yes,
right.
you were.
I'm also a Utah concealed carry instructor, so I teach regular concealed carry classes. So there's something to that. Like, my particular carry gun is a P30, double action, single action. I like it the way I carry. I'm very open about the way I conceal carry, and my opinions, and so I'm actually reaching out to multiple audiences. Like, hey, I'm not just some dude that walks around in a jersey that makes me look like a human NASCAR. I'm not just in fact, I'm still debating on designs for my 2017 jersey because I don't want to look like a NASCAR. And like firearms are a part of my daily life. I'm an NRA certified instructor. I teach defense in the home, outside the home, firearm safety, rifle, shotgun, and basic pistol classes every week, and at a couple local ranges. And I get all sorts of questions. I have to appeal to and educate a lot of different people, from like people that don't even know how to grip a pistol and want to learn, to people that I shoot 3-gun with and are way, way better than me, right?
Right.
And they want to follow me and engage. And so it's a balance of and entertainment, right? Like, because it's social media and we're on here because we don't want to listen to our mom continue to talk about whatever medical procedure she's about to have next week or whatever it is, right? And real life stuff, conversations.
I gotcha.
People stare at their phones when they don't want to engage in real life.
Right.
I have something to add.
Go ahead.
Kind of on the content side of
cool.
things.
And then I got a question for you when you're once you finish your thought.
Perfect. So one thing that always sticks out to me when I see somebody is, like, we love it when people send us pictures. We love it when people, send us how they're using Vortex products or how they're promoting it. But one thing that Sean, I think, kind of somewhat slightly hit on, but it kind of goes along with the good content. The other thing I think that you can do for a sponsor is have your own content. So don't necessarily take a picture and send it in and rely on that sponsor to just use everything you send them.
Right.
But for me, some of the biggest and the coolest thing is seeing somebody who's really good on social media, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, even Twitter. There's some people that are really good with that. But seeing a really good Instagram account, I know that there's certain accounts we can just go to at any time and grab content.
Right.
And that their page or their account is generating all of those interactions. And I know that person is really good with social media, and particularly with Instagram. I know that there's certain people I can just go to their account and count on there being good content there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's also the other side of the spectrum of somebody who sends you a lot of pictures. It's like, well, now it's we love to see that. And we're not, I'm not bashing that, but I still have to make that into content to put out.
Right.
There's work to do. It's not
There's
like
still
you couldn't
work
have
to
taken
do.
a picture of your own optic by yourself.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting it in a totally negative light, but some people just make it so easy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. They're creative. They're actually putting it to use.
So, Reuben, to build off of that, then what can a sponsored shooter or someone who's not sponsored but maybe wants to grab the attention of Vortex Optics, what can they do to make it easier for you?
Well, I guess for me, it all starts with, what's the end goal? Because people have to have something to offer ultimately, and we have to be able to help them too. But having something to offer is a big thing, and having, here's what I'm going to do, here's my plan, here's my mission, this is what I'm going to do if we choose to work together. But, for me, just not babysitting people.
Right.
Certain people are just awesome. That you can talk to them, you pick the timeline every so often. They're out there doing the thing, they're pushing the brand, they're helping people ultimately is really what it boils down to, is having people that are out there that represent Vortex in an area where I can't be every day.
Right.
But you're also not going to sponsor everybody. It gets to a point where you can't sponsor everybody.
Right.
Because the goal is to sell more and to get, to grow the brand and to take care of customers. So if everybody was sponsored, you wouldn't have anybody supporting you.
Exactly. You wouldn't have also the income from product sales to be able to pay your staff that make the stinking products.
Right.
Right. And I totally agree on that. That goes back to the question that I was talking about earlier, is if everybody's sponsored by optics companies, who are they selling optics to when they're at a match, right? So I kind of get what you're talking you guys are talking about there, as far as like reaching outside of these matches that we do, and what is your additional reach?
Oh, I mean, you look at Jesse Tischhauser, right? He's got like 50,000 people that follow him on Instagram. That's way more than there are three gunners out there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's hitting people that are not three gunners, and
Right.
and I would imagine a lot of them, if not most of them, probably never will be. But they probably own an AR or you know, own something they can put an optic on, or something they can put something on, whether it be a component or an optic or a barrel or ammo or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. You
know, you have different people that are, I think you're reaching out to customers, whereas this kind of steps off of that. But one of those things that I really like to do is talk to people about, like, hey, you know, since you said you want to work with us, and since you already have the scope, what does sponsorship mean to you? Like, do we move forward from here and just say, cool, yes, you're an ambassador, you're a representative? Because if they're not looking for anything, one of those things I'll say is like, well, do you have binoculars? Do you have a rangefinder? Because all of these people that go to matches, you know, they probably don't just shoot three gun.
Yeah.
They might be a hunter, or they might just be a recreational shooter, and they can go to the range and say, oh yeah, you know, you need a spotting scope. Here you go. Borrow it to somebody, and that person gets a good exposure to the brand. And
I gotta say, based on my experience, the rangefinder has to be like the perfect product to give to your sponsored shooters.
I love the rangefinder.
Everybody uses them. You go to
well, yeah, because it's the easiest thing to lend out.
Yeah,
and you know,
that was my first Vortex product. And to the point of what Reuben was saying, I mean, when we were first talking about a more than friends relationship,
there it is.
Boom.
You know, I was really uncomfortable because he's
Your
like,
first time's always uncomfortable.
Yeah, he was like, what do you like? What do you need from me? And I was like,
this is getting dirty.
well, I'm like, well, you know, there's so many things that I can do myself.
My God. I hope you have a point.
Yeah. The point is, I make a damn good living, and I can buy all my own gear.
Right.
I don't need someone's logo on my shirt. But I've realized on the sponsorship brand ambassador type relationship, I can have a deeper impact than just buying my own gear and going and shooting the matches I want to shoot. I like the relationship. I like the interpersonal interaction. I like getting to know people in the sport on a deeper level. It's more than just getting a better time. It's the relationships in the three-gun community that I like.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people listen to your show.
Right.
That's why you do the show, Dave.
Right.
And
that's exactly why I do the show.
Right. And so, you know, Reuben's like, well, we can do this, and there are other products I'd like to put in your hand other than just one of our 1-6s on your main rifle. Like, you know, I'd like to see you. And it was really interesting because Reuben just went right into like everything Vortex could, and I'm just like, well, all right, that's cool, but we really need to talk about what I can do for you because, like, all right, here's what I've got going on Instagram. Here's some other projects I have going on. Like, we need to talk more because I want to make sure that I'm doing enough for Vortex to make sure that you guys have what you need. And, like, I need to be clear on what you need from me because, like, I want to make sure it's reciprocal. I want to make sure you guys are satisfied because I'm more than satisfied at this point. Like, this is great. And quit grinning, Dave. And it's just it's so easy for it to be one-sided.
Sure.
And the relationships, it's so easy for a business to sell something to a customer, take their money, and disappear.
And
right?
go find that next customer.
Right. You see it all the time. Like, we all go shopping for stuff, we all feel like we've gotten had at some point. And Vortex doesn't do that to their customers. As a brand ambassador for Vortex, I sure as hell don't want to do that to them.
Sure.
I want Vortex to always feel like they owe me something. That way I know I'm doing something right.
So how do you provide that to them then? How do you intend to provide that to them?
That's a really good question. I'm constantly trying to figure out what more I can do to give them more exposure on my digital media accounts. Because the last place I think I'm going to give them value is at a match. Because I show up at a match and I'm like, hey, bro, nice Trigicon logo on your jersey. Hey, bro, nice Vortex logo on your jersey. Guess we're squadding together. All right, let's go shoot a match. Okay, see you next weekend. He's not going to run out and buy a Vortex scope because of us squatting together.
Right, which
Three
is the point
Gun's
that I
not a
was making
spectator
earlier.
sport.
Which is the point that I was making earlier.
Right, exactly.
So what then do you intend to
so
provide?
it's the how I'm portraying it. Like it's the, hi, I'm Sean at home dry firing with my Vortex scope in front of a Christmas tree.
You could have somebody who is a phenomenal advocate for the brand in that community, and they wouldn't even necessarily have to shoot.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like we have people all over the place, and I don't mean that to sound like, oh, we have so many people all over the place, but we have people all over the place who represent the company that do it really well, and they might not be a shooter, but then there might be somebody who does officially or unofficially, and their shooting has nothing to do with how well they represent a company.
Right.
So you see it in all different ways, but
it's just like
I think it boils down to
it sounds like it's just like in sales in general. Like you don't really buy the product, you buy the person that the relationship that they're building with you.
No, if they can put good experience and good memories to people who they interact with,
right? Whether
it be on the stage or wherever.
So do you have like a certain plan for where you place your sponsored shooters in the United States, or do you want to reach like every single corner, or do you see yourself like lumping them in the Midwest?
I think that we have a lot of people in the Midwest that they take a certain point of pride with Vortex, just because that's where we are. I think there's other companies out wherever they might be located, but I know that like when I go out and shoot Ironman, there's a lot of people that shoot for another company because it's closer to them, and so I think we do have a good amount of people in the Midwest that are pretty loyal to Vortex, and they're proud to be a part of it because we go to matches and hang out with them, and like we're just normal people. But I definitely, when you're looking at somebody who's new, trying to gain sponsorship from us, if they're in an area where somebody else is that's just a rock star and they're doing a great job, and if it's between that person and someone else that you feel very similarly about in an area where there's a lot of competitors' product, you would probably think pretty seriously about where is the support going to be most efficient.
Right. Well, okay, so let's switch gears up a little bit here. Let me ask you a question that I see asked in a lot of forums and in person a lot of times, and people have said to me or like asked advice, how do I do this? So, Reuben, let's say that I'm a new shooter. I shoot iron sights. I've been shooting 3-gun for 1.5 months, and I realized that those 200-yard targets are pretty far away. How do I get Vortex to give me a Razor HD?
I got an answer for you.
I'm smiling.
This is for Reuben.
I think it is one of those things that sometimes it is the harsh reality of you got to pay to play, at least to start, and it might be one of those deals where you're hoping for that other sponsored shooter to come along and borrow them something and say, hey, you can try this in case you don't like it. Then you wouldn't have to buy it and not spend your money on it and waste your money for something you don't ultimately want. But there is a point where you have to have a marketable skill or something to bring to that sponsor that would make them, take the chance.
But I really want to shoot.
Yeah. Well, one thing for me that's really helpful is rarely conversations go like that. I think it's happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've had plenty of times where you've had somebody who sent an email and it's like, hey, I'm thinking of shooting my first 3-gun match this weekend, and I was wondering if I could get sponsored. And for me, that's super easy. And I just go back and I'm like, yeah, I was at that point one time too, and I ended up shooting with iron sights and just I had fun. I shot it to have fun. I didn't worry about where I finished at the end of the day. But it kind of goes back to the golf thing. Like, sometimes you just got to, bite the bullet and spend the money. And if you don't have a marketable skill, or if you're not willing to really push that company in your area, in your market space, then it might not be for you.
I like it. That's a topic that comes up so often, and I've heard it myself so much before. In person, emails, people email me all the time. How do I get sponsored by X? It's like, people ask me for introductions all the time, and I say the exact same thing. It's like, they're not here to just give free product out to support this this industry. Like, this is the reason that they're in this industry is like NASCAR. They sponsor those cars to sell Tide and to sell Pepsi and stuff like that.
I think for me, having the experience starting out at nothing. When I started out, I shot my first 3-gun match with a red dot that you could change the reticle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, it had 4 different settings, and
Sweet.
I didn't even know if it was zeroed right. I just went and shot. I had my quad rails and Super Black Eagle with a +2 on it, and like my goose hunting rig.
Yeah, I actually had one of those Magpul M-Bus backup sights, the plastic one that you could move side to side and change your zero.
Exactly. Well, and that's for me. I think for me it's a good thing to have there to talk about, because I can usually, say, hey, what are you thinking about? What draws you to 3-gun? What draws you to become a sponsored shooter? Something I ask all the time with everybody I talk to about sponsorship is, what's the ideal relationship between a company and you? What do you see that as being? What do you feel that you have as a shooter and as a person to offer? And what do you expect back? And if, I guess if somebody can't answer those 3 questions, that's, I just thought that you got sponsorship if you wanted to shoot. I mean, that kind of goes back to that might not be for you.
Sure.
And I use my personal experience of, I was at that point too. I started out, I shot my first 3-gun match with, like, my belt wasn't even a shooting belt. It was just a regular belt. I didn't have shot shell caddies. I bought 2 Caldwell shot shell sleeves that you put on the buttstock, and I ran them on my forearms.
Nice.
Like, that's how I started shooting 3-guns.
I'm doing that my next match.
I had mine in my pocket.
That's an old trick. That's old school. It's like Soldier of Fortune 3-gun stuff. But
I didn't even know that one.
So using, being able to use personal experience and give them, not even from my position at work, just being able to say, hey, from me to you, shooter to shooter, guy on the range to guy on the range, here's what I would do. I would go out, make yourself better, become marketable, get a marketable skill that you can offer to a company, and a plan. Like, here's what I'll do, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that company can say is like, hey, that plan isn't for us right now. But, hey, at least you had a plan. At least you had something to offer. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is being able to just give people advice and say, here's what I do. I think it's awesome that you came to me and talked to me about this. And, sometimes it's kind of funny. Sometimes you'll go to a match and they beat you, but you can't sponsor everybody.
It's true. Well, what are some things that you see sponsored shooters doing that they could be doing better?
Well, I think we have a super great crew right now. I don't I mean, nothing comes to my head right away. I think social media is a big thing. Social media is huge. There's certain people that you can look at their social media account. Like, from my standpoint, like, I didn't know Sean. I didn't know his shooting background at all.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at Instagram, looking at how he's interacting with people, I was like, holy crap. Like, he's doing an awesome job representing HK. And, like, we sat down in the house that night, and we're chatting, and I was like, so how long you been shooting 3-gun, And the answer surprised me, like, because he was so good at representing the company that he represents.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's him bringing a skill that he has in a different arena into a hobby or a passion, right?
I had never, I find myself now, like, actually looking at HK's website, just from a shooter-to-shooter perspective. Like, he's done such a good job representing them in the 3-gun space that, like, I'm looking at, oh, cool, I didn't know they made that. And that's really, like, that's an indicator of, for somebody in the gun industry.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that gets me is where people don't feel like they have to be in different arenas, and some of the best 3-gunners out there are not super active on social media. That doesn't mean they're the best sponsored shooters or the best brand ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
They could still be an awesome 3-gunner and not be, an awesome representative.
Now, do you see value in a awesome 3-gunner that is terrible on social media and maybe doesn't even have a social media presence at all?
It would probably influence the decision on, as of right now, adding someone as a new shooter.
Mm-hmm.
It would definitely influence the decision there. You're looking at across the board, because there are so many people who can get that exposure for your brand, for your company, and they might not be that great of a shooter yet.
Right.
They're working hard, and people see things like putting up stories about how to load a shotgun, or here's what I'm trying now, like Josh Tarrant, right?
Yeah.
Awesome dude. He's putting up all these videos of him, here's this drill I'm trying, here's how I'm practicing loading my shotgun. And I think even non-shooters look at that and they're like, look at that, I'm following this story. I'm watching this progress. I'm watching this guy. And when he gets to that level where he wants to be, people are going to remember looking back and saying, oh, dude, I remember seeing you, like, when you were dropping shotgun shells on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And to go back to the question, do you see value in somebody who's just a phenomenal shooter that isn't on social media or maybe isn't really active in that space? Yeah, I mean, they have value, right? I mean, they've created themselves a marketable skill. But is that single skill, is that single piece of what they do enough to warrant a relationship? I guess it depends on the type of person. To the guy who's out there active in his community, goes to the range all the time, he has an ability to help influence people to buy product and to give them insight into what they should be buying. I mean, I think you could probably kind of see where I'm going with this. Like, there are certain people out there who, man, they're just, like, it might blow you away how fast they can, shoot a stage or whatever. And then you look at, like, what's their ability to work with people and to get your brand good exposure and have a solid representation of your brand in their area. Then I think, there is value in that. But you also are now they're competing with people who are getting you hundreds of thousands of exposures rather than just the 30 people at their local club.
Right.
Who have already bought equipment and already know what they're going to be using. So, man, I sound like a jerk.
No, you don't.
You totally don't.
It sounds like a reality check for sure. But, and sorry to cut you off there, Sean, but to me it also sounds like a calibration and maybe a reality check, and also a roadmap that people can take if they want to improve their marketability, right? I'm sorry, Sean, what were you going to say?
Well, it's all about marketing. In fact, I wanted to loop back to Josh Tarrant because he's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
We sat down in the house, and Josh is literally a rocket scientist. That's his background.
It's his job.
He's an aerospace engineer. Now he works in helping.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
He works in designing products for medical equipment, but his background, he's a rocket scientist. Deals with chaos theory, constantly adjusting, which makes his brain perfect for 3-gun, if you think about it. And so he's constantly working on stuff. Yeah, and so he, and which shows in his game. And I was looking at some of his content, and he and Jay Carilla sat me down. And he's like, all right, give me the skinny on Instagram. What are you doing? What do I need to change? What are some of the, give me the quick short list of what I need to be doing. Okay, cool. And Jay's been doing some stuff, and Josh is doing some stuff. Then a week later, he sent me a snap or whatever the new Instagram equivalent of a snap was. He's like, hey, Sean, I'm sorry, I really suck at Instagram. I've been trying this, but this isn't working. How do I change it? And I just sent him a quick answer back because, we manage, my agency manages a bunch of accounts and, that we're in it. So I'm like, change this to that. You're missing this, bro. Hope that helps. Oh, I noticed this. Pro tip. Just little things like little 30-second snaps, couple throughout the week, back and forth over the holidays. And he's just dialed it in now, and he's doing live stories. He's doing videos like, I'm working on this today, painting the target with my rifle, working on PCC, and his following has gone up almost 200% just over the last 30 days. He went from 300 to almost 600 followers.
One other thing that Josh does really well is he represents the sponsor in not only in his own space, not only in his pages, but I've seen him as many times as many people have that, over the last few years. I've seen him jump in, and somebody might be saying something about a product, and if he's sponsored by them, he jumps in and goes, oh, yep, here it is, check the website, this is what it is. And he's
engagement.
People are like, so who do you work for? Do you actually work there? And I've seen people comment on his stuff, and they're, whether it be a positive comment about the company, a negative comment, or neutral, he's jumping in he's even thanking people who are like, I run a Vortex, and he jumps in and comments. And he's like, thanks, we really appreciate that. It's like,
sweet.
That makes my job really easy because because when I get home at night, I generally go on and look at 3-gun talk and all of the different pages, Enos, and I'm trying to catch up and make sure that there isn't a comment left where someone is like, well, I tried contacting Vortex 5 times and couldn't get it.
Right.
Hey man, here's my cell phone. I'm at home right now, giving my baby a bath, but you can call. And he's jumped in on a lot of things that I've seen. And that's one thing for me that's huge is I don't have to babysit that. That
right.
To me is he's got a directive, he's got a goal, he knows how the company wants him to represent them in his space, and he's very active on making sure that the customer who might not be a 3-gunner is taken care of.
Not only that, but networking. I can't talk about the details, but I called him and asked him, somebody else on the HK shooting team had some questions about a particular product for a different company, not Vortex, that Josh represents, that I knew little about, and I asked Josh, and this particular shooter was interested, and Josh made a connection, and then it created another relationship, and it got back to me, and big things are happening and discussions are happening at SHOT Show. And then another friend that represents another company came back to me and said, hey, I heard that this company and that company are talking. It should be interesting. And I just thought wow, that started with a conversation between me and Josh Tarrant 3 weeks ago. Josh is really proactive at networking and hey, that company should talk to this company.
Yeah.
It's a really.
He's a matchmaker.
Yeah, it's a complicated version of on Media Day, and I said, hey, Reuben, grab one of those UH1s. Let's go put it on an MP5 and blast some stuff.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's a valuable version of that.
Well, that was pretty valuable. I thought it was cool.
Well,
made me happy.
MP5s are cool, and UH1s are cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, same question to you. So aside from engagement, what are some things that you see that people doing on social media that they can be doing better?
I'm assuming just shooters in general, those that either are sponsored or aspire to sponsorship.
How about, let's say, three-gunners?
Three-gun shooters that are either sponsored.
Three-gunners in general.
Well, I want to look at it more as growing the sport, right?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal. Whether you're a company that's trying to sell more stuff to three-gunners, or you're a three-gunner that's trying to make the sport more well-known, or a sponsored shooter that's trying to sell stuff that your companies that you represent make, everyone's trying to grow the sport, right? Because the more the more the merrier. And other than engagement, I mean, engagement is it. That's the secret. And frankly, I guess the quality of engagement should go up.
Right.
Less shit talk, frankly. Let's be more complimentary. Like, oh, I can't believe that. Did you see so-and-so trying to quad load that way? Like, well, why don't you go and give them a tip?
Yeah.
Instead of talking shit in a private group.
How about one of my pet peeves? Frequently, someone will ask, what's the best compensator? What's the best this? What's the best that? And then the guys that have heard that 100 times will pile on with like, oh, my God, it's down below, blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, just don't respond. You know, if that bothers you that much, just don't respond. Move on. You know?
Right.
Don't
Take
look
your
at it.
sponsor and sell a comp.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could do that or just move along. You don't need to see it. But there's no reason to pile on a new guy because he wants to buy the best gear.
That's like the worst experience that you could ask for from somebody trying to learn, is to make them feel stupid for asking a genuine question. That drives me nuts.
I've had that experience when I was first getting into three-gun, and I'm like, you know, I've never run into this situation before, and I've got a match coming up that has this situation. What's the best way to do this? You know, and I wouldn't ask it on social media. I would go to people because I was trying to avoid that shit because I saw that happening, and so the quality of engagement. What can people do better? Representing companies or trying to attract the companies? Like, I mean, for me, all the companies I represent have approached me, with the exception of one. And they asked me if I was interested because I buy my gear and I'm really into the brands that I use, and so I promote them anyway because I mean, even the car I drive, like, you know, in certain instances, like, I will talk it up, Mopar or no car, like, and so I mean, and then, you know, maybe next year I'll be driving a Beamer again. I don't know, like. I like to have fun with it, and so I'm loyal and almost to a fault, and very promotional because of it. And I'm naturally a salesman. I'm in marketing. I love to sell, and not everyone is a salesperson, but whatever you are naturally, just qualitatively, just put your best self forward, I guess, as a human being online. Because the problem is you and me talking face-to-face or going to these booths, it's really interesting. A lot of people that I've interacted with that, you know, as I've grown my following, coming up to me, like, calling me by my Instagram handle.
Shunga Boom.
Shunga Boom official? I'm like, Sean works.
Should have left the official off there. It's kind of lame.
Yeah, I got rid of the underscore.
You changed it to actual.
Andy
Peter
suggested
Snackful.
that. Anyway.
Can I say one thing about the whole being like having a brand, having a favorite, right?
Yes.
Some of the coolest things are watching people who shoot. It can be for any brand, it can be for any type of product. But for me, like, an indicator of somebody who's going to be a great advocate is like that, like, hey, I love your stuff. I already own it. Can I represent you? Like, and if they get that, and if they get a no, or if they get a like, hey, you know, at this time we don't have, you know, the resources to add to that portion of our marketing, they're like, well, cool, I just figured I'd ask, but I'm going to continually push your stuff anyways. And, like, that's, like, a perfect indicator of, like, okay, when I have the resources, I'm going to call that guy back.
Right. And, I mean, that just shows it shows their character and their intent. They're in it for, like you said, the growth of the sport, the growth of the company, rather than just like, hey, what can I get out of Reuben?
Yeah. Like, hey, if you think I can add value to your company or become a representative and represent your company well in my space, I'd love to. And if that can't happen right now, then no hard feelings. I'm still going to use your stuff.
Yeah.
That, to me, I always feel bad after that conversation because I'm like, man, I wish I had something I could do.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Reuben, I got one last question for you. And this is kind of like a big picture sort of thing. You've been in the 3-gun game for a while, and you see it from a different perspective, both as a shooter and as a representative of a company. I see in the short time that I've been paying like really, really close attention to 3-gun, I've seen companies come in, create shooting teams or tons of brand representatives or whatever it is, and then drop and run. And then the same thing happens again. It seems like people, jump around from sponsor to sponsor to sponsor. And sometimes it seems like it relies on the passion of a person in a marketing position or in like an executive position within that company. And if that person leaves that company and takes that passion with them, that kind of collapses underneath. Do you see that same perspective as well? Or am I just hypersensitive to it? And then why do you think that is the relationship can sometimes be fickle like that?
I've seen companies take an entire shooting team and just it's done. Like, it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen next year.
Right.
And there's always a reason, right? I mean, there's always going to be a reason why it happens. Like, either they just ran out of resources, or they saw little value in what they got back from it, and the money isn't there, right? Like, they might have hit a point where, hey, that's just I can't support that team anymore right now. But I think that if in the first place you were supporting a large group that now you can't support, like, there's got to be a reason, right? I mean, like, either they weren't providing value, because the whole thing about having those official relationships with sponsored shooters is like they're hopefully driving business your way.
Right.
For me, I'm super passionate about 3-gun because that's what I do in my free time, and I know from going out and interacting with shooters on the range and guys that I've known for a long time that, like, I think the vast majority of people who are out shooting for a company really do represent them in a very broad space rather than just on the range. Mm-hmm. But I think that, like, the size of the shooting team or the number of ambassadors, definitely I can see that there are probably certain, some companies out there who don't pay attention to the people that really love their product.
Right.
And if they get to a point where somebody leaves a company and then the shooting team just disappears, that had to do because there are no relationships going on. There are no interactions happening anymore.
Right.
And it goes back to being about people. Like, we absolutely value the people that that we're affiliated with. We also extremely value the people who just buy our product and shoot it. And for me, I know that there's a lot of very good exposure out there to be had from people who believe in your product and believe in your company and want to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
That it just makes sense. Like, hey, let's foster those relationships. Let's build those relationships and see what we can do to provide support for people who support us. And I know that you can look at products that are in use wherever they might be that we make and who's using them, that, like, a lot of those go back to people like Jerry Mitchell, like, who put something in someone's hands at one point and said, here's what I use. You should try it out. Mm-hmm. And I think that just making, reaffirming those relationships with people and being the guy at the company that they can call and say, like, hey, I was wondering what you think about this. What if I put this scope on this gun? And giving them an honest opinion, like, hey, I don't think that would be real good, or, yeah, that would work awesome. And I don't know. I there's companies that I like just on my own, like interacting with, because I know that they value your business. Like they answer the phone, they talk to you. And then there's other ones that, like, I don't really care what kind of toothbrush I use. Like I'll buy whatever one's cheapest, right? Because I don't have, but I bet if I had a relationship with somebody at a toothbrush company, I would probably buy theirs.
Dude, I liken it to my barber. I have a barber in Colorado where I used to live, where I'd gone to her for like 4 years, and I told absolutely everyone about her because she was so awesome. You know, she was badass. And when she moved to a different shop, I went down to the bad part of the neighborhood, and in the back of a tattoo shop, I got my hair cut. I followed her around because we had that relationship, and, you know, that just proves, like, it's all about people.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And I think that working for Vortex, I'm super, like, it's my dream job, like getting to work with people that I've looked up to, like, for a long time, and getting to, like, just being able to support people who I feel really are worth working with. I've seen a lot of people go to a point where, like, hey, yeah, let's start working together. Let's work together. And then that person is out in a public space, and you see him, and you're like, man, I'm super glad that person represents us, you know, and you're just glad that you could be of support to them, and they do the same back for you.
Yeah. And
you just have to value your customers and value the people who are excited about your product, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, that's Vortex is about you. So. Absolutely.
Well, Sean, we're going to be wrapping up here. I like where Reuben left off here, so I'm going to ask you for a final thought if you got one.
A lot of people don't want to put in the time and effort necessary to make sponsorship or endorsement or brand ambassadorship, whatever you want to call it, worthwhile and valuable to the companies that they would want to represent, or don't know what it actually takes to be of value to those companies. And when they find out, it becomes cumbersome. I've been talking to people all week here at SHOT Show that, I have to be at such and such a booth at 2 o'clock.
Oh, I've heard that too.
All week. Yet they're wearing a jersey, and they don't complain when they're at a match rocking that piece of equipment that they probably got for very inexpensive or a discount or for free. And so for the people that are aspiring or are in that sponsorship game, I just want to reaffirm that it's about people. It's about value. It is a transaction. It's just not a currency transaction. And we all need to decide what our time and resources are worth, and whether we want to do it with Benjamins or with other types of human capital and sweat equity.
Right.
And for those that want to go for it and are hesitating on the social media thing because they don't know what to do, I guess my final thought on that, because that's kind of the title of the show, is like, when you ponder, you squander. Go do it. Just start doing it. Just like getting into 3-gun.
Yeah.
I need all the right gear. Just go freaking do it.
Go shoot a match.
Just go do it.
Somebody's going to borrow you equipment.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, somebody's going to borrow you a selfie.
It's true. It's true.
Just go do it.
All right, guys. Well, it's we covered a lot of topics here, and I really liked how both of you stayed positive in this kind of like a touchy subject. You know, it's when we talk about relationships and interpersonal relationships and sponsorships, a lot of people bring out emotion into it, and you guys did a great job of bringing in the facts and things that people should know without hurting any feelings. So you guys are awesome. I really appreciate your time. Reuben, this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Sean, this has been great, man. We talk about this stuff all the time, so it's cool to be able to get this stuff in front of the audience as well. And guys, let's go look at some Vortex products.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Rangefinder binos.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 113 for podcast support links. And like I mentioned before, I have some special bonus content from Sean Burrows, who you just heard from. Sean is a big community guy and wanted to help all of us out with our marketability, so he put together a video called The Instagram Stage Plan for 3-Gunners. You can get access to this video by going to 3gunshow.com/Instagram Stage Plan and entering your email address. This video is full of great content, including some stuff that I didn't know, but we'll be implementing in the future. It'll help make you a bit better Instagrammer and a better marketable 3-gunner. Again, that's 3gunshow.com/Instagram Stage Plan. As always, thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.